Welcome into Heating Up. I guess we'll still call it Heating Up. This is not going to be a lot of Alabama basketball talk. We want to do a game reaction. So Cody and I just got finished watching the Battle for Atlantis first round game between UConn and Auburn. One of the best basketball games I've seen in a long time. We thought this would be the perfect opportunity just to jump on and do a little reaction because I think this will be a game that's talked about from a lot of different angles for a long time. This is a postseason type game right here. So we just want to jump on and kind of not have a specific rundown, really, just kind of recap some of what we thought of the game. Just to set it up a little bit, this is two ranked teams. UConn was a 2.5 point favorite. If you're talking about Vegas, the over-under was 143. If you don't even count overtime, Cody, the over-under, the total ended up being 166, went way over the over-under, even without overtime.
Wow.
A few stats here. Ken Palm, it's kind of the rating service we like to use more than the polls. UConn was the number 22 team coming in. Auburn was number 30. The ESPN BPI, the Basketball Power Index, they predicted UConn was going to win this game. They said UConn had a 64% chance to win. So it seems like the metrics and all the basketball type people, they were kind of feeling a UConn win right here. Neither team has played anybody really coming into this game, so it's hard to take much from the stats of either team coming in. I think UConn had one of the worst strength of schedules in the country coming in, so it was hard to really figure out what to expect out of either team. So that's why my big picture first thought is I feel really good about both of these teams. Result be damned. I feel really good about both of these teams. What's kind of your just initial reaction, first thing you think of when you come out of this game?
Yeah, it was Auburn's ability to take a punch and roll with it and bounce back. You hate to lose that game because it was such a hard fought game, and they were, just the intensity that they played with, and you think you might have played well enough to win, but just to be able to go down like we did, and seemingly not be able to create shots in a lot of different places like we were. And all of a sudden, KD just flipped the switch, and our guards, and we were able to get in the full court press. We really showed a lot of grit out there, and it was really impressive.
Let's talk about the starting lineup right off the bat. They did make a change. KD Johnson started the game instead of Wendell Green. So we had Zep Jasper running the point and KD Johnson. What did you think of that decision? We talked about that a decent amount last week, that it could happen, but we liked KD coming off the bench. What are your thoughts on starting him tonight?
I don't really have too strong opinions on it. I guess this is kind of a KD type game, as you see, when you play a team like UConn that's as good defensively as they are, somebody that can, is quick at first step, get to the rim, and also have outside, shot is key to have. But as far as like taking anything from it, I think maybe he's just rolling with somebody that had a good practice the day before. I don't really know, because Wendell had a really good game today too. All of our guards had a really good game, so it was. I don't know if that's going to be a consistent down the path as far as starting KD, but we'll see.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot really positive or negative about it. I guess I would say positively, him stealing the jump ball a couple times was pretty big. I know that happened later on, but I thought that was just key. If you look at the minutes played, now I know the minutes played numbers are going to be kind of crazy because of the extra time, but if you take it for comparing them to each other, KD Johnson played 38 minutes, Zep Jasper played 39 minutes, and Wendell Green played 35. So starting didn't really change the playing time much at all. They all played good minutes, and we'll hit on that a little bit later about them playing all three of those guards at one time. But it was kind of a tough start there for Auburn right at the beginning because of Sanogo for UConn was really taking it to Auburn. Walker Kessler trying to defend him one-on-one. I didn't really think Walker would have much difficulty defending people one-on-one with his length and his reach. But, man, Sanogo was getting too deep early on and just using his force, getting over that left shoulder, shooting that right-hand jump hook over and over. Do you think that's a area of concern for Auburn now, Cody, with Kessler not being able to defend that? Or, I don't know how many guys we're going to see like Sanogo all year long.
Yeah, so that was kind of eye-opening, because we seen, Kessler's really able to block and alter shots within the, team concept and protecting the rim. But I never seen anybody just go mano-a-mano on him like that, and it was kind of eye-opening. No, that he did get a couple of, was it one or two blocks down the stretch on him? It was really key in the game. It's nice to see him bounce back. But yeah, it looked like it was a big low for Kessler down there. And I think when Jalen, you guard him by committee, kind of like with Jalen and Jabari, and we tend to do a little, we tend to neutralize his offensive ability a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. I made a note because it was a really early sub. I believe Wendell Green, Dylan Cardwell, Chris Moore, and Jalen Williams were all in the game by the 16:21 mark. And that group is really what started the run for Auburn to take a little lead early on. What are your thoughts on getting the bench in that quick? Do you like that? Some of it was honestly a little bit of foul trouble issues. I mean, nobody had two, but KD got one real quick. Jabari got one real quick. Walker Kessler got one real quick. I think a little bit of it was Bruce trying to save one of those guys from getting a second foul real quick.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised that Dylan Cardwell didn't impact the game a little bit more than he would. It seems like his type of game, you kind of put his big body in there to kind of neutralize somebody like a Sanogo. But that guy's just a baller, and he just really had his will, especially in the first half of the game on all of our front line.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If you go ahead and look at his stat line, he had 30 points. He was 12 of 25 from the field. He wasn't near as efficient in the second half as he was in the first. 6 of 7 from the free throw line. Only 6 rebounds, a little surprising. 4 fouls. He played with 4 fouls forever, a long part of that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
8 turnovers. Sanogo, I know he had 30 points, but I also honestly thought after that run in the first half that we played okay against him.
Yeah, and you said turnovers. UConn as a whole was turning the ball over like crazy. It has a lot to do with how well our guards played defensively, especially in the full court press. But yeah, I mean, going back to Sanogo, we tend to all like when we put. Of course, Kessler is really tall, so this is kind of an unvalid point. But it seemed like Jabari and Jalen was able to alter his shots a little bit better than Kessler was. I don't know if Kessler was going up too straight up or wasn't able to jump with him, but I don't know.
I think those guys were doing a little bit more work before he caught the ball to make it like where he was having to move more to get the ball. I think that is what helped that a little bit, but I'm right there with you. Talking more about the first half, I thought Wendell Green and his shooting is what really kind of took Auburn and made a lead and then kind of kept him in the game. He was 4 of 6 in the first half, 3 of 5 from the 3-point line. It looked like Jared Harper out there with some transition threes. He had 11 points. He also had 3 assists. I'll have to go back. That pass he made was like behind his head, no look to, I think it was Walker Kessler who called it and dunked. Incredible pass.
Oh, yeah,
Wendell was great in the first half.
Yeah, kind of. It was kind of a double-edged sword with him because he was hitting so many shots down there in the first half that we kind of started relying on it, and I think that kind of dug us in a hole when we were taking really high difficulty shots. We weren't looking to get other teammates involved, but yeah, he poured it on them there at the beginning.
The other thing I'm kind of looking at during the first half, UConn shot the ball really well from the 3-point line. They were 8 of 12 in the first half. Cole, their senior point guard, was 2 for 3. Pauly off the bench was 2 for 3. And then Hawkins, the freshman, comes in and is 3 for 3 off the bench. Plus, I think he's the one that got fouled, and we'll talk about that in just a second about that foul on Jabari at the half that wasn't a foul. But it seemed like to me, the difference in most of this game, and I bet Bruce Pearl will tell you something similar, is that Auburn made plays offensively and defensively. They made plays, but they kind of didn't execute some game plan type stuff. Like, you got to know that this Pauly guy and this Hawkins guy are standstill shooters and run them off the floor and know where Cole wants the ball. Like, I feel like that's a sign of a young team, a new team that hasn't been through these together, and then it's harder. Like, they can make plays. Like, our Auburn made plays, but maybe there's like all these little things you know from the game plan and the scout, and they weren't able to take that into the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to know what RJ Cole shoots from the 3-point line consistently. I don't know those stats off the top of my head, but he was phenomenal in the first half. It seemed like every time we kind of take a step forward and start carving into that their lead, he would hit a 3. And same thing with Pauly down the stretch or down the second half. It seemed like he was just always in the right place at the right time when everything broke down. Just the ball seemed to find his hands, and he was able to hit a wide open 3. It was just some backbreakers after, like you said, us making plays and forcing, some incredible, scramble, and it just ends up to break UConn's way.
So
Funny
the big
man.
play, I guess, going into halftime, I think Auburn ended up cutting it to like 8 or something like that. Jabari Smith's got 2 fouls, and he jumps at the 3-point line like an NBA level 3-pointer. I don't think he made contact with the guy. I think it was all ball. They call a foul, send him to the free throw line for 3 to kind of close out, make an 11-point lead going into halftime. What'd you think of that decision? I mean, I guess you tell Jabari, hey, you got 2 fouls. You shouldn't be jumping at a 3-point shooter anyway, but I didn't see a lot of contact there.
Yeah, I the refs, I wouldn't say it was a bad officiated game, but there was a lot of times it's like I really didn't understand their rationale with the call.
A
Chris
lot
Moore
of
had one. Like,
anticipating, I think.
yeah,
Anticipating there's about to be contact there, but there wasn't actual contact.
Chris Moore had one that was he blocked the layup and it was nothing but ball, but it just I guess kind of looked like a foul.
Right.
But I don't really know how to explain it. And that's the same thing with Jabari. It was a little awkward, and I guess you just had to be a foul,
Right.
but it was very key. I mean, a lot
What
of those
about
plays.
what about the one that was the breakaway and Devin Cambridge jumped up with a
Oh
guy and
man,
didn't even move his arm at all. The guy sticks his forearm into Devin and he gets a foul.
yeah. If anything, it was an offensive foul. Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I didn't really understand that. And then like KD, a couple times KD's getting hacked down there. In my opinion, shooting layups. I don't know. The officiating, it was like I said, it wasn't too bad, but they were letting the guards, especially when they're on defense, let them use their hands a lot. There was a couple of times Zeb, I would probably call foul on him, our guy, but and then Cole was coming in just stiff arming him, and then all of a sudden it's like you said they're just anticipating a foul or phantom fouls that were happening at when they're shooting layups. Didn't really understand it.
So UConn's up 11 going into the half. I still felt okay about it because I was like, a lot of breaks didn't go our way and we're down 11. Like, I felt okay about it. Going into the second half, Coach Pearl decides not to start Jabari. He's got 3 fouls. Thought that was a little bit difficult. I'm looking down. I had kind of a play-by-play going on, and I believe Jabari entered the game with 15 minutes left in the game. So he sat 5 minutes, and UConn only extended their lead by 2. It was 54-41. UConn up 13 with Jabari entered the game. There still really wasn't a run at that point. There wasn't a run until Auburn ran the 3-guard lineup. So let's talk about that a little bit. This is the first time this year I think we've seen Wendell Green, Zep Jasper, and Katie Johnson all play together. Most of that time, I believe Jabari and Jalen were in there with him. What were your thoughts on that? You think it's just that's how the game was going and we started pressing, it started working, or is that something you can see Auburn kind of leaning towards in the future?
Well, I'll give you credit. I think you text me coming out of halftime or soon after. You was like, "Why don't we run our 3 guards out there at the same time?" So you called that. I don't know. The way it worked tonight, I can see us going to that a lot in the future, especially if we're able to get in our full court press and able to get those guys playing on ball defense and just making plays in chaos. I really thought it worked good. We're kind of my biggest issue with Auburn in this game is we got 0 production from the wing. This is the type of game that we would really, Flanagan would have really helped us out, in all facets of the game. And Cambridge and Moore, it just wasn't their night. Cambridge has always kind of been a little streaky and stuff. So why not roll with the guys that are making plays with our 3 guards and Jabari and Jalen and company with Kessler with our big guys. I like that lineup.
I'm right there with you. And it started, that lineup started rolling, it started working, and you're not going to go away from it unless you absolutely have to. If you just look at the second half, Katie Johnson played 15 minutes in the second half. Zep played 15 minutes second half. Wendell played 14 minutes in the second half. Cambridge only played 8 and Moore only played 8. So there was a conscious effort that, their minutes were going to get cut basically in half. And obviously it worked out. I mean, you just weren't getting enough production, like you said, out of those guys. And, it's a new game. They'll be ready to step up next time. Devin ended up hitting a big shot in the corner at one point. They kept putting him in for defense. So that was the struggle, though, Cody, is when they went to the 3-guard lineup. I don't remember if it was in overtime or late in regulation. UConn was playing like a long, tall wing. Was it Martin? Is that who it was they kept going to?
Yeah, it was Tyrese Martin.
So they have this kind of long guy playing the three, and they just started posting him, and he got about 2 or 3 buckets in a row. And that was something that how do you play defense with that 3 guard lineup other than going full court, which I think you got to do,
Yeah,
right? Just try to make it up and down.
yeah,
But a good team's gonna, get you into the half court and exploit that.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I thought Jalen Williams did pretty well. I like how he closed the game with him against South Florida the last game. He down the stretch. It seems that it's really beneficial when we have an extra playmaker out on the floor from the post position, high post position. That's one observation I had.
Yeah, I'm right there
Kinda,
with you. He's a little hot and cold. Like, he'll make a
yeah,
great play and then have kind of a turnover that makes you scratch your head a little bit, or take a shot that you're like, I don't know if that's probably the best shot we could have gotten. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
in general, I do think he gives you more than he takes away. And at times, he was more effective than Kessler tonight. And obviously, Bruce thought so too, because he played him a little bit more. And like, Dylan Cardwell didn't play at all down the stretch. So I think that was Bruce really liked that small lineup.
yeah. I think if you got to come away with this game with any, your biggest fear is how our wings are playing right now. I feel like that's our biggest, weakness as a team. I think guards, obviously showed it today, and in our front court, we're really solid, and the rotation is really solid. And Chris Moore has had a one good game against went in South Florida. It
Wasn't it?
was it South Florida?
Or was it ULM before that? I
It
think
was
Chris Moore
ULM.
played. Oh, yeah,
It
he
was
played a good bit
ULM.
against South Florida too, though.
In Cambridge, like you said, he made a couple good plays, but he's never been just very consistent production from that spot. And just to come back what I said earlier, Flanagan's really going to help us when we finally get somebody to be able to produce in that spot, because that's really
Yeah.
our weakness, a glaring weakness in my opinion on our team right now.
I think you're right, but I mean that's keeping us from being a not perfect team, but like having everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah,
a lot of people would take Jabari Smith and playing through him like we did some, and I think that'll just get better and better because he's gonna get better and better. I think KD Johnson was the guy. Get this guy the basketball, and he was making stuff happen. I thought there were a couple possessions late that when Wendell Green played well, he had a find. I'm trying to think. It was late in regulation. We were either up one or down one or tied. It was a really close game. And they set him. We set these ball screens that go to the corner that I think are really difficult. And he gets to the corner, and he's a small dude, and they're like collapsing on him. He finds KD Johnson at the top of the key for a three. That was a massive play. And that told me so much about Wendell Green, that he's got poise and he doesn't mind having the ball late in the game. And I think you're going to see even more of that. The big struggle for me is what Bruce was trying to figure out offense and defense. He was trying to get Devin in on defense and get Wendell off the floor, but then he wasn't calling timeouts when we had a lot of them. Like, we had like 3 or 4 timeouts. I would have liked to see a couple more strategic timeouts to get our best offensive team out on the floor. So maybe we don't have to just force something through Jabari. We could run a little bit more offense. What are your thoughts on late in the game, the offense for defense? Where do you go? And I mean, I honestly, you'd rather not have that situation at all. But what do you do? How do you play Wendell? How do you play Devin instead? Like, what do you live or die by?
well, I think you live or die by KD Johnson, and him being an agent of chaos that he is. I don't know if you call a timeout and you let UConn get set up in their defense, that's probably a win for them.
Sure.
And the way we were operating, even Zep was making some plays down the stretch. And,
Yeah.
our guards were all kind of just making plays within, a chaotic full court press defensive scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you're talking about.
And I don't even mean like the very last possession, because I'm fine with letting it fly at the end too. I mean, there's like a minute and a half. You got 3 timeouts. You got the ball. You could really call a timeout and put your absolute best offensive team in the game. But I guess the thought is we're going to play through Jabari on this play anyway. So we don't really care if it's Wendell out there or Zep out there, whoever. We're going to go through Jabari. And sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it didn't. And there were a couple that we didn't close them out there at the end. So I don't know. I mean, it still came down to a rebound. If we could have grabbed a free throw rebound, as much as we're gonna love on Jabari, he's got to be able to grab that rebound as well. It was a bad break and it bounced out, and it's right to the guy that you didn't want it to get to for UConn.
Yeah.
So a couple tough breaks there. Auburn could have just grabbed a rebound and closed this thing out.
Yeah. You say that against Auburn, and UConn could have done the exact same thing. It's really two teams that were really fighting hard. A lot of plays that were coming out of nowhere. KD just willing a turnover multiple times. This is just one of those. I don't know if we're trying to get into big picture stuff, but this is one of those games that is going to mean a lot going down the stretch, into the season. We're going to be able to lean on this, and it's going to give us a baseline of who we are and how we're able to react to, adversity. Because obviously UConn is a awesome basketball team. They executed. They don't have many weaknesses. They're tough, really good defensively. We had to force a lot of those plays that we had to claw our way back into the game, and I come away from this game feeling a lot better about ourselves. Honestly.
I absolutely do too. And I didn't want to lead a show saying that the result didn't matter, because it matters, but because you want to go win a tournament. But to me, I've seen a lot of Auburn basketball games in my life. I've seen a lot of early season against a really good opponent, and we don't look up to par. We don't look like we deserve to be there. Case in point, last year we had no Sharif, I understand, but we played Gonzaga and we looked out of place. You know what I mean? Then we went to Baylor, we looked out of place. And those teams end up being great. I think UConn is not going to be that level, but I think they're a Sweet 16 type team. And I come out of the game saying Auburn is too. What that one shot went down or didn't, or a rebound went down or didn't. I feel much better about this Auburn team right now than I did 3 hours ago. And I think that you take that as a positive.
Oh, absolutely. And it also just shows, how flexible we are as a roster, how we're able to, if we want to roll out 3 guards, if we have to, if that's how the game dictates it, then, we're comfortable doing that. We have a lot of flexibility, a lot of optimism coming from this game.
So it ends up going to double overtime after Katie Johnson just made another incredible play, saying he wasn't going to let this team lose. I wanted to look at the specific overtime periods and see who scored the points. I thought that was kind of interesting. Katie Johnson, Jabari Smith, and a little window green. They scored like all the points in overtime. That's who was getting the basketball. You'd love to get a little bit more out of Kessler. He had one putback that I thought was great. You'd love for Zep to somehow get involved offensively, but everybody can't have the ball and score. I think there's ways to play your role. I have no complaints about Zep Jasper. I thought he played his tail off on defense all night long. Those presses aren't supposed to work at the college level. Especially against a ranked team. There's supposed to be enough competent ball handlers that presses don't really work in college basketball, but Auburn's definitely worked tonight. I think we were down 15 with like 11 or 12 minutes to go. It's incredible that we were even in that basketball game.
Yeah, and we were kind of been hard on Cambridge, during this segment, but he made a couple of really good plays, and he's very key out there in our press sets, because he knows where to be and he executes it very well. And our guards just play their tail off, wreaking havoc. And our big guys, obviously know how to execute on the back end. It is. Yeah, like you said, at a college level, it's not supposed to be that hard, but we make it really, really hard. Even with somebody like RJ Cole, we get him in the corner on their side, and they say it goes off his knee, but it didn't really. Replay didn't say it go off his knee. You don't get that type of player down there in that position unless you're just an absolute awesome at
right.
Pressing like we are as a team
at this level. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I think if I'm UConn, they needed this win more than Auburn to me, because Auburn with this is a brand new team. They've never played together. So the fact that they were in there, look at UConn's roster: RJ Cole, senior point guard; Gaffney, who had some buckets late, junior; Jackson, sophomore; Tyrese Martin, senior; Pauly, senior; Sonogo, sophomore. He played all last year. Their only addition was the Hawkins guy off the bench, that he had all the threes in the first half, but then he's also the one that coughed up the ball late in the game. UConn has played together. They had no newcomers, really. So they were ready for the game, and I think that's why they didn't lose, because of missed assignments. They lost
Yeah.
because Auburn had better players than them sometimes, in my opinion, the perimeter guys especially. Auburn may have lost because they missed some assignments and a couple balls didn't land their way, but that's stuff that you can fix. UConn can't fix, talent level.
Yeah.
So I'm really encouraged by it 100%. And I think this Auburn team, now I don't want to see them go lay an egg tomorrow. Loyola's pretty good. They had Michigan State beat down to the wire. So if they come out, if Auburn comes out tomorrow and is not ready to play, then I'll start thinking more about, hey, maybe this team mentally is not there yet,
Yeah. And just kind of to go on what you just said about sometimes we just had better players than them. RJ Cole, I think if you asked any college basketball team in the country, everybody would want RJ Cole on their team to be their point guard. But that being said, he doesn't have a first step like KD or Wendell, or even Zep tonight.
Or Jabari. Nobody.
Or Jabari. I mean, some of it was just, skill and athletic ability, and KD was just on full force, just showing his athletic ability.
But to me, that team's supposed to win in November. The team with the higher floor is supposed to win in November. They should be more ready to play than Auburn. Auburn's got a higher ceiling, in my opinion. And if this game was in March, I think it would be different. But I think UConn's going to be good all year. I got no doubts.
And get a little corny and read in between the lines. Seeing people congratulate each other making plays, like every time Wendell hit a shot, KD was the first one to go over there and dap him up. Somebody like KD that's looking to get his, it's probably sometimes not, team oriented as much, but it's nice to see, and Bruce is always able to get team buy-in like he is. And
you can't press. You can't run that kind of defense without having buy-in. One guy's not out there doing everything he can. That doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Me guys they're not good at pressing.
That's right.
You have to have a bunch of we guys to press.
What are your thoughts on, it seems like Jabari's the guy, and that's what we've heard from the beginning of, he's kind of the leader. He's the guy who huddles people up. Chris Moore is the guy as well, but that everybody kind of looks to Jabari. He's the guy. I think Auburn went to him when it mattered, and I think that's probably important. But at the same time, do you think the coaching staff and or the players got a little bit of a boost of confidence of Cody Johnson can win us a basketball game, and he's not scared of the moment, and I'm not afraid to get this guy the basketball when it matters?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So KD, I'm going to go ahead and predict KD's going to cause us so much frustration in a couple of games throughout the season, but also there's going to be more times than not where you would rather have him than anybody in college basketball on your team, because he's just going to will and make plays for your team to win. And, when we played him against Georgia, he didn't have a game like he did tonight against us, but he had a really good game. And I was this guy is just everywhere. Just, it's like he's just a force to be reckoned with. Defensively, he doesn't have the measurables, but he's just always touching and always impacting the passes, or the guy that's dribbling the ball. And I don't know, like tonight, I wouldn't rather have anybody on my team than KD, because he was just making plays. And like you said, Jabari's supposed to be our guy, and he fits the role. He has the tangibles, going to be a lottery pick and stuff. But in college basketball, it gets real messy and it gets chaotic, and it's not like how high executed basketball.
Sure.
Somebody like a KD Johnson, that's who you want to lean on in those types of situations.
Hey, guards win in March. Let's take it over to a few of the individual numbers. I've got it pulled up. KD Johnson had 27 points, just one assist. That kind of tells you he's getting his head down and going. But his one assist was an incredible play, not running over the defender like the Alabama guys did last week, and he kicked to Jabari in the corner for a three. Great play. I don't ever think KD really plays selfishly. I think he's getting to the rim. And what was he supposed to do? Not shoot the layup when he gets to the rim? I think he sees that he's got the advantage and he goes. Jabari had 22, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Let's see. Zep had 9. Walker Kessler had 14 and 10. Devin Cambridge had 6. Wendell Green with almost a quiet 19, because so many of them came early, I feel like. It's hard to complain about 19 points from your point guard, 5 assists, 4 turnovers, isn't great out of 35 minutes. And then, like you said, Jalen Williams with 12 off the bench was a big help. I'll tell you what I like, Cody. Free throw line. Auburn was 33 of 41 from the free throw line, including 12 of 12 from Jabari Smith. 11 of 16 out of KD Johnson. It's pretty important that the guys you go to late in the game can also knock down free throws. Jabari showed me a lot today from the free throw line.
Yeah. I get when you threw those numbers out there, I didn't think they were as good as they were. I felt like we missed a lot of free throws, but that's impressive. But like you said, Jabari showed you a lot. He the guy that was commenting our game was kept saying he grew up within the game. I definitely think he did. I mean, yeah, I already had it penciled in my notes in the first half. It's like, Jabari's got to learn how to finish, in against real Division I.
Those are grown men out. Those are not just Division I. UConn,
yeah, not Division I, but yeah, grown men out there. He kind of looked a little timid and soft going, and then all of a sudden, he's hitting some of our biggest plays down the stretch, and doesn't look like he's scared of the moment at all. Yeah, so I was very impressed with him. I know he missed that shot, but I felt like it was going in, and that's I think that you give that shot to him 10 out of 10 times and feel good about it.
100% agree. A couple individual stats from UConn just to mention, because they had some big ones too. We said Sonogo had 30 points. Cole, the point guard, with 24 points, including that huge 3 in the corner, and Pauly with 24 points, 6 of 9 from the 3-point line. Hawkins with 16, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. So I thought Auburn did a better job later of kind of finding the right guys and stuff, but UConn just really made some plays. They're a veteran group. Team stats wise, UConn ended up 15 of 26 from the 3-point line. You're not going to lose many games going 15 of 26. That's incredible efficiency right there. What is that, like? That's almost 60% or something like that.
57%.
Wow, that's really impressive. And Auburn went bad at 40% at 12 for 30. Both teams shot over 80% from the free throw line. Turnovers was the big key. Auburn forced so many turnovers, 24 turnovers for UConn, 14 for Auburn. And most of the Auburn ones were dumb early ones where we just were a little shaken up, just throwing the ball out of bounds. What was going on early in the game?
Oh, it was coming out of half.
That's right.
Yeah, Wendell had a couple that just like slipped out of his hands, and then Kessler tried to throw it to Wendell on a break and just overthrew him. It was I didn't know what was going on. It come from that and then end up turning into this 2 overtime game. It was pretty impressive. But yeah, those were some just dumb turnovers.
Here's the team stats why you lost the game, in my opinion. Minus 13 on the rebounding battle. UConn plus 13, a couple huge offensive rebounds down the stretch where the ball just bounced out. They grabbed it, kick it out for a 3, bang. Huge backbreaker type things. If Auburn could have just grabbed a couple of those defensive rebounds, it would have been a huge difference.
Yeah, and in the past we've had some guys like that. Horace Spencer, shout
Anthony
out.
McLemore.
Those guys just had a nose for the ball, and you just didn't have to worry about them not getting a rebound. I was kind of hoping Dylan Cartwell, of course, he didn't get much a run today, but do that type of guy. But we do need Jalen had one that was in and out of his hands, crucial at the end of the game.
Our biggest dog rebounders are KD and Zepp, and they're 6 feet tall, if that. You know what I mean? So we do need somebody to step up, but we played small, and that's what's going to happen. Jabari maybe could have stepped up and grabbed a couple more rebounds, but I thought he was battling down there, so it's hard to really complain. I thought Kessler was battling too. He ended up with 10, so I don't know, but a couple rebounds and you're playing Michigan State tomorrow and trying to make it to the championship game in this little tournament.
So how do you feel about Kessler's performance tonight? I think we are talking about it at the beginning. I've kind of have mixed emotions because I feel like he does things that other big guys can't do, as far as like body control and hitting, hard shots, but also he plays a little timid. Like you want him to just be a big man, but I don't know. How'd you feel about tonight? How he played?
Mixed reactions, mixed feelings. I think it's super early, and I think Walker Kessler didn't play that much last year as a freshman at North Carolina, so I think he's going through things for the first time a lot. I think a lot's expected out of him because he walks out there and he's 7'1". He was a 5-star recruit. My only complaint, and I don't even have the complaint really. Bruce Pearl is going to give people the green light to shoot the basketball, and that's why they make big ones, and that's why Wendell Green's not afraid to take one transition. Walker Kessler took one. I think it was late in regulation, kind of on the wing when we were trying to come back. It was early, so we ended up coming back anyway. It was kind of questionable. I don't mind him pump faking and getting to the basket. He's got to figure out a way to be a little better finisher down there. But I mean, there's so much to ask. How do you teach that guy to do something different? Does he just start going off 2 feet or something? I don't know. I'm definitely mixed feelings. I understand what you're saying. He also played a long time with foul trouble, though. So I would want to mention that. I think maybe he's a little bit more aggressive if he's not worried about fouling out of that basketball game. But I'm with you. But he came to Auburn because they were going to let him be a stretch 5 and do some more of that stuff. So I think you got to let him do it. And then hopefully that the defense and rebound, he gets better and better.
Yeah, like in the first half, he was getting dominated by Sanogo. And then I don't remember if it was it the early in the second half, he makes he blocks one of Sanogo's dunks, and it changed the game. And it's like there's not a lot of people that can do what he can. He's very long and athletic. And he knows how to use his length really well.
Coordinated, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, like, I thought maybe some coaching things could have been different on the defensive side for him early on, like whether it be doubling the guy or more ball pressure on the guards so they can't enter it so easily to Sanogo down there. He had such good position. And I want to know what the scout was. Did they tell him, don't let him go off his left shoulder and shoot right-handed jump hooks? Because if they did and Walker Kessler didn't execute that, then yeah, that's a problem. There's sometimes you go for a scout and you say, this guy's got no moves. Stay behind him. And you got length and you could affect it. You know what I mean? So if that was the scout, then he did what he was supposed to do. And Sanogo just played really well. So I'd like to know what the game plan was before I blast Walker Kessler too much on his defense.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think he showed you in the games prior. He's obviously a nice asset to have as far as when as help side defense, because he's altered shots. I mean, he's a block specialist.
I think that's what I'm saying. I would rather have the tools and know that he can do some of that, and he's going to get better. This is his first time going around. The defensive awareness is going to get better, and we're going to learn so much more and become a better defensive basketball team. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little concerning, but I just don't think we're going to see a lot of Sonogos down there just bullying everybody. And I don't know. I just think the guy was really impressive tonight, and he's the reason they won the basketball game pretty much.
Yeah, he was really good.
Any other just kind of themes from the game that you wanted to hit on? 13 steals for Auburn, only 1 block. I guess that was the only block in the game. Well, besides the ones they all call fouled on. I guess that's why there's no blocks, because they called a foul every time that we did it. But that was an impressive block by Kessler. UConn led 34 minutes of the game to Auburn's 10, but I still feel like we had it right there, and Auburn's going to win that basketball game, and just a couple bad breaks. But any other themes to the game you want to hit on before we get out of here?
I think you already mentioned it prior. I think Zep played really well tonight, even though he probably didn't fill the stat sheet. I thought his defense was very key in our comeback, in calling our way comeback. And I really do like, Bruce has always done this though, but it's not a surprise. And he closed out with Jalen as the big guy against South Florida. He riding whatever squad's out there is playing the best. I thought that was a good. I feel like a lot of coaches have been hesitant, like you said, because you give up a lot, especially when you have that guy.
Are you talking about when they were big on the wing and we were trying to play
guards? They were posting our guards up a couple of times down the stretch in the second half. A lot of coaches would have got out of there real quick, but Coach or Bruce Pearl he stuck with our hot hands, and I appreciate that, because I think that's why we ultimately almost won the game.
My last thing is just that I think Auburn and UConn are going to be able to play with most teams in the country, and I feel really good about saying that now. And I didn't know last week. I really didn't know how everything was going to go, and especially without Alan Flanagan, I'll be curious to see some strategy stuff when he gets back. What does that do to rotations? What does that do to offensive play calling? I mean, Alan Flanagan's a guy who can kind of do a little bit of everything, but last year we were relying on him to get the basketball and score. So we won't as much need him to do that this year. Is that fit in with what he wants to do? Is he can go out there and play defense and rebound, or does he want to just get the ball and be an ISO scorer? So I think that'll be the next step of what's interesting with this Auburn basketball team. But I think we got all the tools to get where we need to be.
Yeah, it's nice to see all these new pieces tested like they were against a real good basketball team,
Yep.
because you feel really good about Wendell shooting ability, but you're playing against not such great competition.
But think about last year and think about what we did when Sharif wasn't out there and how hard it was to get us in offense and how Tyrell Turbo Jones couldn't do it and Justin Powell did a little bit, but Wendell Green obviously can do that. He can, worst case scenario, can get us in offense. And I think Zep can too. And I think that's important. And like you said, we're learning little things about this team. Jabari Smith can get the basketball in a big spot and make a play. We learned that tonight against a really good team. He's a clutch guy hitting free throws. Jalen stepped up again. We learned that. If anything, the only thing we didn't learn is what are we going to get out of Devin Cambridge and Chris Moore, in a big game, a big situation. Maybe that's something we question. And then we just have to question, I guess. I don't think Dylan Cardwell got enough opportunities to say what he's going to do. I think Bruce went away from it, went small, and liked what he got, and he just didn't go back to him. So I guess you can say that's a question mark too, but I feel okay about Dylan Cardwell just physically getting in there and hanging with whoever we need him to as well.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree with that.
Well, if you don't have anything else, we'll wrap it up there. Just a little game reaction. This was a fun one. Just an outstanding basketball game. UConn takes out Auburn 115-109. Auburn's back tomorrow against Loyola Chicago. I believe you said 1:30. Is that right?
Yep.
And I think Alabama is back tomorrow as well, playing like Iona in a tournament.
I believe so. If we don't regroup and bring our A game tomorrow, we'll get beat by Loyola Chicago. I watched that.
I bet Bruce is telling them that
State.
right now.
Yeah, I watched them and Michigan State play. Those are two tough teams too.
But that's what you want in November to get tested like that. You don't want to go play somebody you're just going to walk over and not learn the lesson of, hey, can this team come back after a tough loss? You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
So we'll learn a little bit about the mental and, physically, I thought Auburn just got really tired in the second overtime. They had been battling since the entire second half pretty much. They had been playing full court as hard as they could for 40 minutes of basketball. I think they had to wear out a little bit at some point.
Yeah, asking them to press that much, there's a reason why you don't ask basketball players that make a lot of money to press, because that's for the birds, because it's nothing but heart and will.
Yep.
And they were digging deep, and I really appreciate that. It was really fun to see.
So any one thing to look for tomorrow's game? Do you expect anything like changing any kind of rotations or anything roster-wise you would look at tomorrow? I know some guys are going to have heavy legs. It's going to be an early tip tomorrow with guys that played 40 minutes. But, we still played a decent amount of guys today. So do you foresee anything you're going to look out for anything tomorrow before we go? I'm thinking I want to see Dylan Cardwell get a little bit more run and see how he does. He's going to be fresh, and he's always got energy anyway. I'd love to see a little bit more Dylan Cardwell. That would be what I'd like to see.
Yeah, people might forget, because Cardwell was really good for us last year. He's a overqualified backup big man, in my opinion, and I'd like to see him get more run. That's really it. I'd like to see Cambridge or Chris Moore pop out and have a good big night.
Yeah. And it's just the mental fortitude of this team. How do they come back after a tough loss? To us, even we see that this was a really positive day for Auburn basketball. But as a 20-year-old kid, they might not. They might think they're really down and everybody's disappointed in them and whatever. They didn't make some plays. So just seeing how they come out tomorrow mentally early in the game, I think that's kind of what I'll be looking for.
Yep.
Well, then we'll wrap it up there, and we'll get with y'all tomorrow. We're going to see what Alabama wants to do, see if we can get those Norses in. I don't know what we're going to do. Thanksgiving tomorrow, so we'll have to see. We might kind of come back in after all the tournaments are wrapped up this weekend or something, but got a, I guess, semi-big football game coming up Saturday as well, whatever. What basketball is such a better sport than football when you're sitting there watching it today?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a tournament sport, as Coach Mitchell used to always say. You just get games like this, and then you get followed up with a game tomorrow. You don't have a chance to feel sorry for yourself. It's a beautiful thing.
That's right. It's a marathon. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. And we'll be back in a few days when we figure out after Auburn and Alabama play these tournaments. And we'll get you some more content the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us.